There are a few things that we can do to keep our cardiovascular system healthy. Exercise is probably the most important, and there's many different types of exercise that are done on the International Space Station: riding a bicycle, running on a treadmill, lifting weights, so on and so forth. More important is what we call countermeasures right before landing. How do we protect ourselves for that transition from weightlessness back to gravity, when we know that gravity is going to be pulling an increased amount of fluid into our legs and we won't have enough fluid for our brains? Well, first of all, we often can wear G-suits. Fighter pilots use this to retain consciousness when they're pulling Gs. They squeeze your legs and your stomach to prevent blood from being pulled down into your lower body. Also, back when we were taking crews back and forth to the space station on the shuttle, when a crew would come back after 6 months on the shuttle, we'd have them lying down, whereas the shuttle crew would be sitting up. The reason they were lying down is so that their head is on the same level as their heart, and their heart doesn't have to pump that hard to get the blood to their head. Most important, though, is what we call fluid loading. And here you can see a whole lot of fluid containers. It turns out that if you can drink about 1 to 2 liters of salt water, roughly the same amount that you lost when you first went into space. The reason you have to drink salt water is so that it gets absorbed rapidly. So it's not particularly a pleasant experience, but I can tell you by experience it really works. Once this, what we call the protocol of fluid loading, was introduced, we pretty much stopped having trouble with astronauts fainting when they tried to stand up after coming back from space. So this fluid loading is an extremely important countermeasure. Just to finish up, it's hard to do experiments in space. We don't have that many people up there. It's expensive to get equipment up there. And of course we do experiments, but if you have some ideas for countermeasures for things that will protect astronauts when they're coming home, to keep them healthy while they're in space, it would be great to have a way of testing this on the ground. And the way we do this is by what we call extended bed rest. You can see pictures here of test subjects lying down, and typically their head is tilted down by about 6 degrees to simulate the rush of fluid into the upper part of the body. And the results have been quite, I think, useful, that we're able to simulate a lot of the same physiological changes in the human body during this extended bed rest that we do when we actually send people into orbit. And this will be true not only for the cardiovascular system, but for the muscular and bone systems and for the neurophysiological systems that we'll be talking about later. So very briefly, that was a look at the human cardiovascular system's reaction to being put in the weightless environment of space. And just a brief review, the critical thing is the shift of fluid to your upper body, which is the initial reaction to being in space, followed by the elimination of a lot of that fluid and reaching a new in-space equilibrium, which works okay in space, but in order to maintain health when we come back to the ground, we do the fluid loading protocol. We wear G-suits, we come back lying down in order to allow our bodies the best chance of recovering when they finally get into a gravity field after long exposure to the weightless environment of space.